Once prided as the pride of Africa, our schools and universities produce some of the continent's finest minds. But today, many argue that our classrooms are broken, our teachers are disoriented, our graduates are ill-prepared for the future. Today, our discussion is centered around education, looking at the journey spanning through 65 years of Nigeria's independence. And today, our guest is an education teacher and is also the Nigerian teachers community. Dr. Peter Ogudoro joins us this morning. You're welcome, sir.
It's my pleasure to
Thank you for joining us on Summit.
Great.
Thank you so much. All right, so looking back at 65 years since Nigeria's independence, would you say the education system has made progress or declined?
Well, it depends on the parameters you're using to do the measurement. In some respects, we have made some progress. We have more people who have had access to higher education who are not getting even up to 100,000 young people into university. But as we speak now, up to 500,000 young people are able to have access to university education. Even at lower levels, we are also making some progress in terms of number of people who are not literate. But having acknowledged that small progress we have made, we have to start interrogating even that access that people have had. How is it quality access or is it a very problematic access? I can confirm that when it comes to access, in the light of the burgeoning population of our country, we haven't done very well, given the resources available to us. The average Nigerian child still struggles to be able to study what he wants to study. A lot of the young people who are getting access to, for example, universities, are not getting into universities to study what they want to study. They are studying what the system wants them to study, which is one of the reasons why you have high level of graduate unemployment, because people just get into university for the purpose of not staying at home and just doing what their friends are doing. So by the time they get into school, they are not fully engaged in classrooms, and that's why you also tend to have so many young people indulging in cultism, because they are not actually studying what they originally wanted to study. And even for the few who manage to secure admission to go and study what they want to study, what you also find is that they are not very happy in the places where they're studying, because most of the courses are not being taught by very competent academics. And we can't blame those academics for not being competent. It's just the fact that as a system, as a country, we have not given them opportunities to acquire the latest thinking in the professions that they practice. We are not giving them access to international conferences where they can go and learn from their colleagues from around the world. And those of them who teach STEM courses, science, mathematics, engineering, etc., they are not able to teach in environments where the laboratories are adequately equipped, where they have reagents for those of them who are doing things that have to do with chemicals. Those things are not available because the owners of these universities, primarily at both federal and state level, are not funding university education well. Making it possible for more people to be able to stay in the university and not be driven out of university because they cannot pay school fees. I think in the last 2 years we have made some progress along that line, because there's now NEL Fund, which lends money to children from poor and marginalized homes and communities to be able to access university education. So along those lines, so some progress here, but overall, we are still far behind time because the access we are giving is not really quality access.
I like that you mentioned something now. You talked about teachers, being able to be sent for conferences, around the world, to gain knowledge and know what is happening with their colleagues all over the world. I remember that my father used to be a teacher, so I remember that he used to travel for conferences, places all over the world, government-sponsored.
Sure.
No, so would you say that that's one of the strongest features we used to have then that is missing now, or have we lost them? Is this still happening to strengthen the education sector in Nigeria?
Yeah, it's one of the very critical, missing links in our education system. You cannot live in a modern world and in isolation because nobody is omniscient, only God is. And so you need to always, find yourself in environments where after you have emptied yourself in the classrooms in your own country, you go to places where some other people also know some things better than you. So that you can interact with them and borrow ideas of which you can come back and improve upon. But unfortunately for us, that has not been the case because the employers of academics have not been providing the funding that will make it possible for you to go to these kinds of places. But that's one side of the story. The other side is the fact that some people have also secured opportunities, funded by government and other employers in the academic industry and in the academia, to go abroad and secure higher credentials and learn, but never return because in the universities that employ them haven't created enabling environment for them to be able to transfer what they're getting abroad to the resolution of real life problems in Nigeria. And so that discourages the people who fund these things from sending the next set of people. As we speak now, there is actually a kind of ban on sending people abroad because majority of the people who have benefited from Nigeria's generosity as a result of the fear that if they come home, they will not find an enabling environment to practice in line with what they have been taught. They are unwilling to come back home, and that becomes a very unfortunate situation.
All right, so what do you consider to be the biggest challenges facing Nigeria's education today? Is it funding, infrastructure, quality of teachers, curriculum, or governance? Or all these things put together are the challenges?
Yeah, our problem is complex. Our problem is complex. It has to do with even our culture as a people. There is this understanding here and belief that really what will be, will be. And so whether you go to school or not, it's God that determines who is going to be successful. You see, our religion promotes that kind of idea, which is very unfortunate for us. But we know that if you want to make progress in life, you need a plan, and you need to work with the people who can support you to be able to find the resources to deploy those plans effectively. But that's not what our culture promotes. Our culture promotes that what will be, will be. So you find the people in government not rising to the occasion and taking up their responsibility and discharging it well. And so that's a problem. So for a start, we don't have a clear philosophy of education. We are not yet convinced that education is an indispensable tool for moving the country forward. So in the absence of that conviction that education is a tool for national development, you are not going to find the motivation to put more money in that direction. So so funding becomes a major obstacle, and the reason why funding remains problematic is the fact that the people who are supposed to fund the system don't even believe that education is a very important investment you need to make. And as we speak now, things are actually getting worse because the people who should be funding the system, who primarily should be government at the various levels, are beginning to think that education it should be a private investment. It should be a family affair. Parents should handle that responsibility. But that's very unfortunate for us because education is not supposed to be a private investment. It should be a public investment, and it's an investment that doesn't bring returns overnight. So individuals, when they invest, they want returns overnight. But when a government invests, government should know that returns don't have to come overnight. Sometimes the benefits you're looking for will come after about 30 years, especially when you have the right people running the system. And here, so we want to sow today and reap tomorrow. But when it concerns education, you sow today, sometimes you reap in 50 years' time, especially when people are thinking properly. So absence of the right philosophy with respect to education, recognizing that education is an indispensable tool for moving society forward. And that will drive the people running the system to put more money into it. So they will fund it better, so which, again, we know we are not funding it well. The money that, for example, Harvard spends on taking care of a few thousands of students annually is probably much more than the Lagos state budget, which we know remains the richest government, state government in Nigeria. So that gives you an idea regarding what we're grappling with. You know, as a researcher, there was a time I was in Norway and I saw an environment where they were training children in kindergarten, children who were not more than 5 years old. And I inquired into their budget, and I discovered that the budget they were using to take care of 200 children in a year was significantly more than the entire budget of University of Lagos in a whole year. And the University of Lagos is a place where up to 40,000 children, young people, are studying, and you can imagine that. So the money we use to take care of 40,000 young people in the university is lower than what a Norwegian kindergarten school is using to take care of only 200 children. And the people here don't seem to understand that that is not how things are supposed to be. Governance is also very problematic. Governments into very significant and important positions. And that creates...
that's another challenge.
You know, political problems within the system. And then so envy and on international rivalry are things that don't move the system forward. And that, at the end of the day, makes the wrong people to head important departments and faculties. And that definitely spoils the whole show.
All right, so you've mentioned two challenges on funding. You've mentioned another one on appointment of oversight leaders in a critical sector like education. What about issues of infrastructure? Because I know educators continue to complain about decaying infrastructures in our schools, both tertiary and higher institutions. We're going to complain about that. Now, what do you say about that? And then government is also going ahead to create more universities, you know, and all that.
Yeah, definitely. Infrastructure remains very decrepit in our country. We don't have the right laboratories. And unfortunately for us, even where we have some equipment, we don't even have competent people who can use them to teach the children. I was talking with some young people who recently finished secondary school, and they were actually confessing to me, you know, they attended federal government colleges, and they were telling me that those of them who are studying in technical schools, that you find situations where you have equipment, but you don't have competent people who can use them to teach the children. And sometimes, even when you have the competent people, they are afraid that children will spoil equipment, really. So they don't use them. They lock them up and everything is gathering dust. And so, why? Because again, we haven't trained our people well. So if you are a trainer, if you're a parent, you must make provision for what you know. It's part of the cost of training people. You know, you have to make provision for what depreciation. Even accountants recognize that if you buy a car today, after 2 years, it won't remain, you know, at the same level you got it at the time you bought it. But the people running this system don't seem to understand that. Again, we know that above all of these, really, we have a major problem that has to do with the quality of our teachers across all levels, from kindergarten to university. We are not running our classrooms in a way that will make those places engaging and make children want to look forward to coming to school on a daily basis, because we are not training teachers well. There is so much focus on mastery of the subject without paying attention to applying the right pedagogy, you know, techniques for teaching. We don't know to memorize things and pass exams. We are too certificate-oriented as a people, and that's why we are where we are. So people have certificates they are not able to defend. You have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers who cannot fabricate anything, who can't fix electricity when things go wrong in that. And that's why, look at how old we are, you know, and in a modern society, in the year 2025, Nigeria still doesn't, you know, have the capacity. So it's difficult for you to move forward in that kind of situation. And even with the laboratory things we are talking about, even when you put them in place, there's no electricity to power them, really. Aside from the fact that use, you know, use smartphones, use laptops, use projectors, use magic boards to do their work. Those things are absent in most classes, and they don't constitute up to 1% of Nigerian schools.
I know that so many emphasize this, and that's been one of your major complaints about the Nigerian education. One of the reasons we have that is also because the teachers, like you said, are not doing well enough also.
Yeah, definitely. You can't give what you do not have. We have evidence that
the teachers are not giving them the skills they require.
Yeah, definitely. The teachers themselves don't have the skills, so you can't give what you don't have. And we know, let's start even from the home. We have evidence, through research that proves that children who are brought up by literate women, who are brought up by educated women, they generally turn out better in terms of capacity to think and success, really, because it's, the teacher is front and center when it comes to provoking inspiration and making the classroom engaging enough for children to want to engage in inquiries that will make their stay in the school system worth the while. But that's not where we are. And that's something we need to wake up and start addressing very urgently.
All right. So over the years, government after government have been changing policies that they feel will help the Nigerian education sector grow. Now, what are your thoughts? Okay, let's say in the last few years, because I don't want us to take it too backward. We're talking about progress of 65 years. But looking backwards, let's say like 5-10 years, what would you say about the policies that are being churned out to improve education in Nigeria?
Well, we have had this belief as to higher education, for example, that the way to solve that problem is to get more private sector operators into the ecosystem, and we have done that. So as we speak today, it's more or less a 50-50 situation where 50%, about 50% of universities, polytechnics are owned by government, and the other 50% are owned by the private sector people.
Is it that much? Is it that high?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have been giving out these licenses as if you're going to buy ice cream in a supermarket, and that has been very unfortunate for us. And as a researcher in that industry, actually, over a decade, and brought evidence that says we don't need more equipment in our laboratories. And with that, if you support that with the right infrastructure and give children access to internet and give university lecturers access to internet, we can do quite a lot. Almost every Nigerian child finishing secondary school can have access to higher education without our having to build a new university. So, but we have unfortunately been, building more universities, giving licenses to new, higher education operators. And that has further destroyed the system because we are now scattering our resources. Instead of using our resources to take care of 70 universities and make them globally competitive, we are attending to 200 universities, even at the public sector level, and none of them is globally competitive. And so that's a very bad way to look at life. So these days we are thinking about the one thing. We also need to think of specialization. Some universities should be made to focus on STEM, should focus on arts, or should focus on management and business. That's not the way we're thinking. So every university in Nigeria is running all the courses all other universities are running. And that's why we are not able to, produce graduates who can compete at a global level. It has nothing to do with the graduates who are not competent. It has a lot to do with the system that is not giving them the resources they need to be able to utilize their gifts well. Interestingly, even when they don't do very well in Nigeria as they graduate, when they get opportunity to go abroad to do masters and do PhD, after struggling in the first semester, sometimes in the first year for those going to do PhD, they pick up, and because of that, hardship they went through here, they find the resilience and the spirit of enterprise that enables them to begin to excel. So sometimes people hear that Nigerians are excelling abroad, and so when you say we need to improve the system here, they will tell you, but that person excelling in America, in Britain, is it not Nigeria that producing? But if you talk to those people, they will tell you that in their first year in those countries, they struggled. It was after they spent some time to understand how the system was that they picked up. So we want to build a system that makes it possible for you to get to Britain for further studies. On day one, you are able to function and claim your place effectively.
Without disparity.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so you've emphasized the fact that, of course, there are private schools. Everyone knows private universities, government keeps giving licenses for more to be created. Now, what role should these private schools and foreign partnerships play in improving Nigeria's education? Is it working?
Yeah, well, definitely there are universities in Nigeria that are collaborating with universities abroad, both university and private sector. But if you ask me, given the evidence we have, we are getting it wrong there, because we are trying to encourage government to believe that it's not their responsibility to train the Nigerian child. And that's a very unfortunate belief to have, because education is a social good. And so when you private that is their sole responsibility without government making any contribution for them to train their children. And even when you want to give assistance, you lend the money to them, which they have to pay back. So you are giving them a wrong mindset. And that's why the average Nigerian today is not really as patriotic as you want such people to be, because people believe that everything they have given to themselves. We say that every Nigerian is a government unto himself or unto herself. You buy your own generator, you sink your own borehole, you do everything for yourself. So we have taken that mentality to education. We are saying government will lend you money to go to school. So when you borrow money to go to school, when you finish, it's your private investment and you have to get back your return. So when Nigeria asks you to make a contribution that involves sacrifice, sometimes laying your life, down your life to protect your country, you find that the average Nigerian is not very terrorism, banditry, harassment challenges and all of that have remained with us. It's not that Nigerians don't have a clear idea regarding how to deal with those problems, but the question is, if you die in the line of duty, what happens to you and the people you are going to leave behind? Most of the time, police people complain. They retire or they die or get permanent disability while trying to protect the ordinary Nigerian, and they are left on their own.
Yeah.
So that idea of always emphasizing private, public partnership when it comes to education is not something we should be pursuing. Government should take it as their responsibility to educate the Nigerian child. That way, the child will know that it's government that has trained me and I have a duty to use what I have picked from the system to serve my country. And that's what has helped several countries around the world.
All right, you've said a lot already, but in your opinion, I will still ask, what urgent steps do you think Nigerian government needs to take now to rescue and strengthen the education sector?
Yeah, for a start, we need to sit down and ask ourselves a question. What do we think education should be doing for us? We don't yet know that as a people, really. What education should be doing for us is not just to empower the child to be able to find job and feed, really. Education should be a tool for national development. Education should be a tool for giving our children the right orientation, making them realize that Nigeria is their country, and that if this place works, then they won't be subjected to the kind of indignities where that people go through as they try to migrate to other countries, really. Because even when you have high skills and you take those skills to other countries to go and work, you may be earning good money, but you may remain an alien. So from time to time, you are still afraid. You don't feel very, very settled. And even when you move your children abroad, you see they struggle before they find their feet. So you find so many Nigerian families that are abroad whose children are in depression because they are being discriminated against by the people who are hosting them. So we need to get that sorted out. Let's get a clear philosophy of education and get the Nigerian teacher who stands in classrooms to in the typical classroom any day, anytime, to recognize that education should be doing something for us, and what that something is should be very clear to the average teacher. And we should also train them to a level that they gain clarity regarding what learning means. The learning that the teacher believes in, as we speak for the average Nigerian teacher, is that learning is just about acquiring knowledge, but that's not a very good way to understand learning. Learning hasn't occurred until it has translated into the person who has benefited from it, solving real life problems and moving us a step further away from the problems that we're confronting. So we need to retrain our teachers. They are not in a pretty place at the moment. They are so much into promoting rote learning in the school system, making children believe that they are in school just to acquire certificates which are meaningless.
If you could recommend one very bold reform that the government can make to make education better, what would it be?
Yeah, if you ask me, I would say that we should put about 20% of our national budget into education, and government find the humility, courage, and sense of responsibility to accept that funding education is government's responsibility and that it is a good investment. And even when we permit private sector operators to come into the system, we should relate with them in such a way that we are still in charge as a government. And the way to be in charge and make it sensible, fair, equitable, and justice is to give money to private sector people who we have screened and we know they have what it takes to be able to collaborate with us to serve the Nigerian child who is in the school system.
But the government themselves, is not making even private-owned schools to be comfortable, in the sense that the levies, the bills they are meant to pay to government is quite huge, and I know many of them complain a lot.
Yes, that's what I was calling your attention to earlier. The government is seeing education as a private investment that people have to make. Government, the politicians who run the system don't see education as a public good. Until you recognize it as a public good, you won't be able to let the government take up the responsibility of funding it. Because you keep school, it's his family that benefits from it. That's not true. You can't move a country forward on a sustainable basis if you don't have competent think properly, who are not into cronyism. You need people who can disagree with their parents, and that's okay. You need a wife who disagrees with the husband, and that's okay. So you are not likely to get to that level if you don't train people to become critical thinkers, to have analytical minds. Okay, so when you train the citizens to become competent citizens, they will look at what you have put in place to provide them electricity. Children vandalize, vehicles that are supposed to bring food that feeds them in school. They have vandalized equipment in laboratories and things like that. The reason is simple. We haven't, made them see that we are supposed to be working together as a people and moving in a certain direction. So we're atomized. Even when we are sitting in a group, everybody is just looking after himself, and that's a good idea. And we take that to politics. You can see our politics, Yoruba votes for Yoruba, candidate, Igbo votes for Igbo candidate, Hausa votes for your Hausa candidate. We should go beyond that level. It to take education for us to take our people to that level where you don't really have to always think about the people who have the same surname with you when it comes to voting for people to go into public service. It takes education to get there.
All right, sir. I won't stop this discussion before I ask this question. In some states now, some governors have started, other states have come out to say no more for junior secondary school, that except you're graduating from senior secondary school, no more party even for primary schools. They have gone to cancel that. What's your reaction to that? Is it a step in the right direction? Because I know some other states want to also come up with that
many
policy.
states have already gone.
Yes,
Those states is into it, maybe Akwa Ibom or so. Even in the north, they have all lined
graduation
parties because they believe that is the way to become popular with parents whose children study in this. When you rob children of the opportunity to celebrate motivation element in the education system, really that's very true. Because it's, those ceremonies, children look forward to them. Parents may complain that they cost money, but they are among the reasons that keep children in school, that make them want to stay in school and finish and compete. Because at the arena where these ceremonies are done, that's also the arena where children get awards to convince themselves that they are good, smart young people. And
that ceremony.
Government is wrong. Government shouldn't be dabbling into such things. Government is supposed to train school leaders, teachers, school counselors, and parents to know how to manage such events so that they won't cost as much money as they are costing now. But what has happened is that a good number of schools, in the private sector especially, use such ceremonies, and the reason is simple: they haven't got the skills. If you work with parents, You know, something that is costing 3 million can cost only 100,000 because there are parents who will be happy to fund it for everybody to come and enjoy it for free, and those people are there. But because we are not doing it as a joint venture, as a collaborative effort, you just discover that you know, they determine the levy and impose it on parents. And so since most parents are not comfortable giving advantage of that to become popular, but you don't cut your nose to spite your face. I think that's how people speak that grammar. So as you're trying to solve one problem, you're creating a bigger one. You're robbing children of what makes them look forward to going to school. And that's not a very smart idea.
All right. And rebuild the education system so that in the next 65 years, we'll tell a better story for our education system. Today we've been discussing with Dr. Peter Ogdoro. He's an education researcher. He's also the leader of Nigerian Teachers Community. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your wealth of experience with us on this very important discussion.
I agree.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, so we'll move on to the next segment, talking about the developmental strides of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu in Lagos State. Please let's watch and get informed and educated about what's happening in Lagos State. I am Jumoke Michael. See you again in another edition of Summit. Bye-bye.
Our diversity is our strength. As Nigerians, we are blessed with a rich cultural heritage, diverse languages, and vibrant traditions. Our differences are what makes us strong. From the Hausa to the Yoruba, Igbo, and beyond, each tribe brings its unique flavor to the table. Our diversity is a celebration of our collective identity. We may speak different languages, practice different faiths, and have different customs, but we are united by our shared humanity. Our diversity is our strength, fostering creativity, innovation, and resilience. It's what makes us to navigate challenges and thrive in an ever-changing world. So let's celebrate our differences, embracing the beauty of our diversity. Together, we can build a brighter future for Nigeria, where every individual can shine. In loving memory of Alhaji Banji Busari.
Blue Economy Summit held in Lagos, where the governor emphasized the dual role of the ocean and inland waters as beach and a massive source of opportunity for the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu disclosed that the seaterways are the essential foundation for its future economic growth, job creation, and climate change resilience.
Because of a race, we're here to actually lay the foundation of bigger, greater things that will happen. And like you have said your story last night about the best fish market or fish restaurant you've been to, this where we're standing is also a clear testimony of the sheer resilience of Lagos. 15, 20 years ago, we're standing right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right? It was a city that never existed. It was a place that we couldn't have imagined, right? Right from the main road there, it was all, that was it, right? But just with the sheer doggedness and the vision and the power to dream and to think and to understand that water is important to us, to our life, and to everything that we're doing, we're able to converse with the water and allowed that it shifts a little bit backwards for us, and we now have a great city which we call the Atlantic City. It's just a simple example of the power of the blue economy that Lagos truly believes in. And there's several areas of blue economy. So here today at the first Africa Blue Economy, we feel truly proud. You know, for the first time in our government, we also even have senior government agencies that believe and sees the importance of that blue economy. At the sub-national level, we're not taking, you know, the issues around climate adaptation, we're not taking it easy. We're all completely committed, you know, to ensuring that we can build, you know, an ecosystem that will outlive all of us.
In attendance were policymakers, investors, and international stakeholders. The event ran concurrently with the E1 Lagos GP Championship, which focuses on electric propulsion